Hey, everybody. I am so glad that you tuned in to Impact Leadership Podcast. I'm Brother Jackie Cannell, and I'm going to tell you, I love speaking about leadership. I love speaking into leaders, and I believe you're one of them. I believe that you've tuned in to the podcast because you want to learn more and you're wanting to grow more and you want to find a nugget or two. I always tell everybody, you listen to something like this, you may only get a nugget or two by listening, but man, those little nuggets make a big difference when you just add them all up through podcasts like this that you dig into and you kind of expose yourself to. So I want to talk to you today about making decisions. I bet that got your attention because we all make decisions every day of our life. And some of those decisions are easy, some of those decisions are not so easy. So when we think about leadership decisions, I want to just kind of run through a few ideas with you that hopefully will cause you to process your decision making. That as you think about leadership, that you're going, okay, I want to follow a little bit of a process in making decisions. So as a leader, you're required to do that all the time. And the very first thing that when you're looking at leadership in making decisions, the very first and most important question that you have to answer before making any decision is this: is this my decision to make? Sometimes you can really sabotage your leadership effectiveness because you're trying to make a decision that's really not yours to make. And if you're trying to do that, you could be infringing on other people's leadership platform that you don't need to be there. So you really, as a leader, you have to sit down and kind of narrow it down when you're faced with decisions in your mind. Is this my decision to make? So you got to make sure that you answer that question. You have to answer it honestly as a leader. I have found myself at times trying to make a decision when I really had to step back and go, no, wait a minute. That's not my decision to make. And I have to offer myself at that time for the person, if they want to ask my opinion or maybe I can give some input. But man, I have to be real careful as a leader that I make the decisions that are my decisions to make. So make sure you don't mess it up right off the get-go by trying to make a decision that's not yours to make. Remember, ask yourself this very important question: is this my decision to make? And then if it is, you got to take a minute to look at the bigger picture. Making decisions, I have found over my life, that a lot of times if you rush into it and you don't take a minute to back away and look at the bigger picture, then you don't get all the facts together. You make a reactionary decision rather than a real thorough decision. And so you got to take the time in making decisions to look at the bigger picture. Now, never make a premature decision before determining your real need and counting the cost. When I think about that, I've found in leadership that there's a lot of leaders that will make a decision, but it really doesn't address the real need of the company or the situation or the goal or the mission or whatever it may be. And that decision doesn't help them, it hurts them. So never make a premature decision before determining your need and counting the cost. Every decision you make has a cost associated with it. And so you want to make sure that you don't make a premature decision before you determine your real need and count the cost about the decision that needs to be made. Hey, watch this. Do your homework. Do your homework in making decisions. Now, when you think about doing your homework, remember, it takes work. Homework. You have to work at making the right decision. So do your homework. It's going to cause you to work a little bit, but you'll be glad you did it. And then involve people who are going to implement the decision in the decision-making process. In other words, if you got to make a decision, And you're going to have people that's going to execute this decision that you made, maybe in a bigger picture. Involve them in it. Get their input. Let them give you their thoughts on that, and just kind of compile all that together. But make sure you involve people who are going to implement the decision. You'll be glad you did that. You'll call me and write me or text me and go, Brother Jackie, that was a great suggestion. Because if you make the decision without them, they don't have ownership of it. So you want to make sure that you kind of pick their brain and get them in on the process, and then generate as many alternatives as possible. The more options you have, the better your decision will be. A lot of times we have this rigid mindset in making the decision, when in reality, there may be 3 options to this thing. And you want to make sure that you generate your alternatives and kind of get as many of those as you can before you make the decision. And then this is one I've had to learn: recognize your prejudice from the outset. Divorce yourself from your own biased opinion. You know, a lot of times we have an opinion that we become rigid in, and we're not open to other thoughts and ideas. You know, it's going to be my way or the highway. Well, you got to get rid of your prejudiced opinions and your biased opinions in making decisions that will be helpful for you. And then use logic and reasoning and research before making the decision. Get all that logic out there, get all that research done, get all that reasoning in you. And I think as you do that, you're going to be better equipped to make it. And watch this one. This is one a lot of leaders struggle with. Seek advice from other people. Seek advice from advisors. Find somebody that you need to sit down with and go, hey, I got this issue, this decision to make. I need your advice on what would you do? And kind of make sure you pick other people's brains that are people that you trust, positive people, people that are great leaders. And don't be afraid to ask them what they think about that before you pull the trigger on making the decision. And then the other thing that I think is important in leadership is always determine the speed at which the decision should be made. Sometimes you need to make decisions quickly. Sometimes you need to make them, make it last a little longer. You know, you got to determine the speed. Do you have to make it now, or can it wait till next week or next month? And I think that a lot of times we paint ourselves in a corner, and then we become panicky in our decision making, when in reality, we don't have to do it like right now. Sometimes you need to sleep on it for a minute to kind of get some good thoughts going with you. And then implement decisions. When you implement a decision, communicate it. You know, when you make a decision with your company or your church or whatever it may be, make sure you communicate that decision out there to people around you. Don't just make a decision and assume everybody knows what it was. You know, you got to make sure you communicate it to people and train people on what that decision is going to require. Measure your decision. You know, take the time to evaluate it, measure it. Say, hey, I'm going to make this decision, but in 2 weeks I'm going to look at it again, make sure it's accomplishing the goal that I wanted to accomplish. And then there may be some times, and I found this in my own leadership life, that sometimes after you communicate it and you train and you measure it, sometimes you have to adjust it. You know, every decision that you make in leadership is not always final. Sometimes you got to tweak it a little bit, and you got to come back to the table and go, we made this decision, but gosh, we found out after we measured it that we need to tweak a little bit here and there. And always evaluate your decisions. You know, have those points. I keep telling you that. Have those points of evaluation in your decision. And then I think it's important to standardize methods for handling routine decisions. Sometimes you need to set up a standard routine for handling routine decisions. Don't make everything a major deal. Every decision is not a catastrophe. Every decision doesn't require massive amounts of energy and time. Standardized methods for handling routine decisions as a leader. Remember, before making any decision, ask yourself a very important question. Is this my decision to make? If not, don't make it. If you do, it could get you in trouble with your boss or with people that have authority over you. If it's not your decision to make, don't make it. But if it is your decision, then process it. Kind of chew on that, meditate on that, flesh that out, and do it the right way. And I believe that as you go through a little bit of this and you think about a lot of this, you're going to find yourself making better decisions, more effective decisions, and I believe that you're going to be glad you did that. So, hope this helped a little bit. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Hey, I want to encourage you to join us and check us out at jcimpact.org. There's all kind of resources there. Plug into that, see what you think, and let us know. See you next time.